I think at this point we will revert to Lone Star College and what's going on over there. And again, someone who had not run before, but showed up, worked on his campaign, has been at these meetings, actively advocating for a different perspective, we'll say, on the board for Lone Star College. And if you haven't been following, there are a number of things that have been going on, some of which we'll find out about later maybe, some of which we'll touch on tonight, but I appreciate him being here very much. Please help me welcome Dr. Ron Trowbridge.
Well, this is an NSA device. I have a new name from now on. My new name is Anglo. Now, the reason for that is that when we were sued from the Board of Trustees of Lone Star College, the lawsuit cited specifically my defeat of Randy Bates, who was black. And in beating him, I was therefore defined as racist. And in the lawsuit, they referred to my race and they referred to me only as Anglo. I was to be epidermal tissue. So, I now have a new name. And I will tell you that when I write memos to the Board of Trustees, I sign them Grandpa Ron, a.k.a. Anglo. Tonight, got it right. She referred to me as Anglo. So, no more Trowbridge stuff. It's Anglo. I could talk about the college for a long time, but I just tonight wanted to talk about one thing. And that is this whole business. I don't know how much you follow stuff like this, but the recent lawsuit against us requiring that we become single-member districts. You break up this thing into 9 entities, and somebody runs for each entity. And what you get rid of, then, is members elected at large. And a lot of folks might say, well, so what? You still got 9 people. But in this case, you don't have 9 people, you have 9 individual people. And I wanted to fight this. So did Kyle Scott, but we're weirdos. I think we had probably the best a 50% chance of winning, just 50. We're going to go to the Supreme Court. We don't know about Anthony Kennedy because he's bipolar. You don't know which way he's going to go. And you can't even be sure of Chief Justice Roberts because he betrayed folks in Obamacare. So what Scott and I thought about is we were pushing to do this, but we also knew at best we had a 50% chance of winning. In any event, it went before the board and we talked about this. And the board decided 6-2, Scott and I are for the oddballs. By the way, talk about oddballs. You got Walter here again. Walter is just crazy as hell. And to show his bad judgment, he worked on my campaign. I'm going to tell Walter's communist friends, but Walter is his own man. He is his own man. You'll get equal time tonight at midnight. Anyway, it was 6-2, and so we caved in to the lawsuit, and I was bothered by this, and so thinking to myself, Tom Jefferson, I went home and wrote what I called a declaration for unity. At the last board meeting in our closed session, I said, I want to change our policy to add to it a declaration for unity. And I gave a copy of my talk to all the folks there. They all agreed to it. And so it will be on the agenda next meeting, December 5, for the first reading, then a second reading, but it will pass. And I want to read it to you, and then I'm done, I promise. I call this a Declaration for Unity. On October 10, 2013, the Board of Trustees of the Lone Star College system reluctantly chose not to fight a lawsuit that mandated single district members rather than members at large. No trustees wanted this change, but felt that losing the suit was virtually inevitable. Well, I was not certain of that. You can never be certain about what judges ever are. Ever. And they don't agree. The Supreme Court doesn't agree. So if somebody says this is the way it is, that person might have taken it wrong. In any event, I didn't know that it would be inevitable, but I knew that it would be very expensive, up to $1 million to fight it, and it would cost $1 million to fight it. It would cost. I've taken the case from the beginning all the way to the Supreme Court, and it costs $1 million to do that. And if we lost, we would have to pay the other side their $1 million. So, $2 million. I thought we should do it. I thought at best we had a 50-50 chance in the past. But anyway, we did not prevail. So I want to read the rest of my declaration. History advises us on the pitfalls of single district representation as against at-large representation. It stands to reason that a candidate elected by a narrow constituency in a single district will want to serve and to please that constituency. This is especially true when the candidate later intends to run for re-election. I am not going to run for re-election because I plan to be dead by then. And I don't need much. I don't need money. All I need is enough to buy vodka and cigars. If I have that, that's all. The officer's aim, then, conveniently becomes, if you run for single district, not the greatest good for the greatest number, but the greatest good for the candidate's number in the district. Ironically, single district representation not only doesn't punish a candidate for being narrow in focus and not looking at the benefit of the larger whole, but actually encourages the office holder to be narrow, even selfish. From this single district representation, logically, comes parochial competing turf fights over the bounty. From this, something else happens. A few district representatives are encouraged to join up with contiguous district representatives to reap benefits. If not in my backyard, then in the backyard next door. Another powerful pressure emerges from single district representation. The lobbying of state and local legislators. Now, Steve Toth tells me that he will not lobby me. That's okay, it's a free country. He can if he wants. I don't have to listen to him. Okay, and office holders not wanting to displease legislators, especially around appropriations time, will take extra efforts to keep the district's legislators happy. During the process of the single district lawsuit, our board received a letter from 3 legislators pushing for a new building in one district. We had no money for this, but they were saying, we want this building in our district. Such political lobbying will become commonplace. The Lone Star College System Service Area serves 11 independent school districts and is represented by 6 U.S. congressional districts, 5 Texas state senators, and 14 Texas state representatives. One can also certainly envision that developers and numerous organizations will push hard for construction. And you saw that in the last bond proposal. The developers spent $150 quadrillion. It was at least that much trying to get the $500 million bond passed. Why? So they could build buildings and make money. We can cite chapter and verse of countless instances where single district representation has become scandalous, incestuous, and even criminal. Research indicates that single-member districts versus at-large districts tend to have a greater propensity, Walter, I'll tell you afterwards what that word means, tend to have a greater propensity for corruption, favoritism, and divisiveness, and that single-member districts tend to spend more and go into debt more often than at-large districts. The Declaration for Unity, therefore, urges, we can't mandate it, but we urge that candidates for the Board of Trustees, those serving in single limited districts, actually seek to operate as candidates at large, representing the entire wider district and seeking the greatest good for the greatest number. Such a stance becomes a moral one, not a self-serving and narrow parochial one. I'm almost done here now. The board's legal authority and fiduciary responsibility is to govern and to set policy. In the policy statement expressed here, we hereby comply with the law and our fiduciary charge from the public. In the lawsuit, we lost the battle, but we can win the positive and a good war. And the first election from the single district comes up a year from this month. And there are going to be 3 district people coming there. And the 6 of us are going to take those 3 out to the woodshed. Now, I'm usually a very nice fellow, and I just don't get angry about stuff. And the day I get angry will be the day that John Bauman becomes an atheist, and Bill O'Sullivan becomes a University of Texas football fan. But I'm going to hang in here really tough, and especially when folks start to lobby us. And I can tell you, right after the election, the board received immediately a letter from 7 Democrats announcing that they're going to get back to us. And I can promise you I will have no trouble telling them to go to hell. Simply not going to work with it. You can't take away my pay. I'm on the board for another 5 years. And so they're not going to get anywhere. Kyle is as tough as I am. We're the only eggheads on the board. We sit around and think and write and do stuff like that. And I'm in the position now when I don't like something, I just write an editorial. I just write an editorial. And nobody can stop me. So I just write an editorial. So I write editorials all the time. So again, we lost the battle. I wish we would have fought it. We did not. I understand the thinking on the other side. I don't agree with it, but they operated in good faith. And I can just tell you that I'm going to hang in there and be very outspoken and speak out about stuff And once in a while, I'll come back down here, and there's another thing that's just happened. I can't go into it because we would be here the rest of the night. But the Affordable Health Care Act has just dropped another bomb. Let me tease you with it. No.
Oh, yeah.
The IRS has announced that if a college adjunct works at 2 different schools for a combined 30 hours or more a week, the college that hired that adjunct last must pay full retirement benefits and health insurance. If an adjunct teaches, say, 3 courses at Houston Community College and then later signs on to teach 2 courses at Lone Star College, and Lone Star College must pay the full retirement benefits and health insurance. There's only going to be two ways to pay for that. It's going to cost money. There's only 2 sources. There's state and local taxpayers, or their hefty tuition increases. And all 50 states will have to comply with this ACA mandate, and I have sat down and figured out that this is probably going to cost taxpayers somewhere in the amount of $3 to $5 billion. And I finish this is a letter I've got from Dallas. I put down, Nancy Pelosi was right. We have to pass this bill to see what's in it. As Hamlet said, we are flying to ills we know not of. And shoes keep dropping, and nobody knows what's in the Affordable Care Act. Nobody knows. And least of all, Obama hasn't the foggiest idea. I promise you. You know, I got one line about Obama. I'm not on his side.
That's a revelation.
There's a wonderful line of poetry about a fellow who described another fellow and said he was a beautiful and ineffectual angel beating in the void his luminous wings in vain. That describes the clouds in which Obama has his head. Walter, it's your turn.
Well, I've got a question for you. How's that dog doing? You also have to give dog food for the dog too, don't you? You have to have funds. Is your dog doing okay?
Getting old.
Yeah, well, we're all getting old. Listen, this single member district has been around, I know how it developed. It's under the Voting Rights Act, one of the provisions, and it's there, but why in the world? Most those in your position compromise and get several at large, like the Houston City Council or something. Did you try to get several at large, or did you just want
No, that never came up. I hadn't thought of that, frankly, and it didn't come up. Pasadena just did that too.
Yeah.
They went to 6 districts and took large, and I called the mayor and congratulated him for having some balls to do that. And he said, "Oh boy, that was a fun weekend." He said it divided the city council right down the middle. They all hate each other. And I said, that is precisely the point of why single districts don't work. You got 4 against 4 there. And they don't like each other. And they criticize each other. They go public with it. That's what's wrong with a single district thing about folks defending certain terms. But no, I didn't think of that. There's one side, and then I got to go because I got to go walk my dog, which is true. There is some hope in jurisprudence. The Shelby County versus Holder case changed the direction of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Even the Fisher case in Texas changed the law in the right direction. In this sense, both the Shelby County case and the Fisher case in Texas The courts are now demanding strict scrutiny. Well, what does that mean? That means now if you're going to claim discrimination, you have to document it. You can't just allege it. There's a big difference. So there's hope that the courts are moving that way against the Voting Rights Act of 1964.
Now, you did have an
But
Only if you fight it.
only if you fight it.
You guys gave it up. You guys gave it up.
well,
It's an outrage.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you. Oh, Priscilla Kelly, Bob Adam, and Stephanie Markman. I have no idea. I don't think they would say that. Which one? This one. Oh, I've been twice. Oh, okay. That's right. No. Last week I was. The lawsuit didn't want all of this. Now, it stands to reason, it says. You're going to change the districts. Makes sense. They want all 9 of us to run last Tuesday. And we just said that's not practical. And so, anyway, the attorneys managed for some reason to talk about it. So we're going to have the 3 staggered terms. So this next November, 3 of us will be single district. 2 years later, 3 more. And then 5 years from now, all 9 people will be single district. We're going to put this in policy. But it has no teeth. It has no teeth. Do you have any questions? Walter,
you did have an op-ed piece in the Chronicle a couple of days ago on your Obamacare.
Oh, I write about it. Walter, I write about stuff even if I don't know.
Yeah, but
anything
you didn't
about
even
it.
know it was in there. You have to depend on me to tell you.
Well, I put in Sunday too.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Ron. You're always welcome. You candidates are always welcome. We're going to do this as much as we can to give you some time up here to talk about who you are and why you want to do this. And we'll ask our questions. Thank you all very much for being here and for paying attention to politics. It's really important. And we can change things. You would never have known that this stuff is going on at Lone Star. There's a lot of stuff going on at Lone Star. People don't know about it. But you all will know about it because you're here and you stay informed.